Hey guys, this is BoatsDon'tSink, Connor here. Today I've got some more BanG Volume 2 for you guys. We are going to be looking at some sample deck lists. I've got 5 of them here, out of the 6 bands. The only one I'm not going to be covering is Pastel Palettes, because as it seems that they do with every set, they've changed up the colors that this set sort of pushes for center stage and backstage, which makes it incompatible with pretty much like what the good Pastel Palettes deck is right now with the Maya 2-1, since that deck really wants yellow in its center stage, and this deck is pushing blue. So, no Pastel Palettes deck. I think if you're playing Pastel Palettes, you just like add 1 or 2 of the utility level 0s from this set, and go from there. But without further ado, here are some sample decks for you guys. So starting off with poppin'party. For this one, we're going to be looking at the new Tai level 1 combo and Kasumi level 3 combo. Pretty standard. Level 0, we have a lot of plussing zeros. So we've got the Kasumi. So this is the coin flip. At the beginning of your opponent's draw phase, if all your characters are poppin'party, which they always will be at level 0 in this deck, you can reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's level 1 or higher, return this card to your hand. We're not really like specifically building into hitting this coin flip, but when we get it, it's pretty good plussing 0. And on attack, you can give a character 1500. So we don't really need reverses too often in this deck until level 3. But it just helps us break through our opponent's board. The Tai here isn't necessarily a plussing 0, but it is a level 0 that sort of disincentivizes your opponent to attack into it, since they'll lose their own character most of the time. And it provides you utility after it lives a turn, where you can pay 1, send it to waiting room, check top 4. Overall, just a great card for getting through your deck and finding your pieces. Also good because it puts lots of cards into your waiting room for your standby triggers to have targets. And the last sort of strong early game 0 we have is the Puzzled Arisa. So this is during your opponent's turn. If all your characters are poppin'party, which again they will be, this gets +1 level and plus 1500 power. So 2500 on offense is pretty fine to begin with. Most utility cards are going to be smaller than that, so you can still find targets to kill or just direct attack. And on your opponent's turn, it's a level 1 4000 power, which pretty much just beats over everything. So if you ever put these on the board, unless your opponent has a level 0 that specifically gains power on play through some method, your Arisas are probably living until your opponent hits level 1. So it's really good for just clogging up the board and getting attacks and generating stock. At level 1, we're going to be looking to use this setup right here with the level 1 Tai combo by putting that irritating girls effect on it. This lets us do 2 things. As I talked about in my top 10 video, basically we guarantee that our that irritating girl hits a target. Since we get to put one on top of our deck off of Tai's effect, we can always just put a character on top as long as there is one. And that means that irritating girl will never miss, which means it's always just going to be free stock, which is very powerful. Especially when we can spend that stock on pretty decent things in this deck. And then the other thing that we can do is dig for standby triggers, right? So we're generating stock, we're usually guaranteeing what we get, that our irritating girl hits, and since that irritating girl adds it to our hand, if there's multiple characters in the top, obviously our opponent's going to give us the worst one on Tai, but we can put it on top and add it so that we get whichever one we want as well, in addition to the worst one. And if there's just not good characters, or you don't have enough that irritating girls for all of your Tais, you dig for standby triggers, and that lets you get fat things onto the board at level 1, and just sort of continue sort of steamrolling through the game. You never really want to stop pushing with this deck, even though it is a standby deck, which are generally a little slower. Because of the Tai combo here, we're just sort of going full speed ahead. We want to be playing a lot of climaxes. We want to be winning board a lot. Yeah, so we've got digging for standby here. These are pretty much our standby targets. At level 1, the only thing we're really looking to standby is the 2/2 Saya. It's a 10,500, and beginning of Encore step. If you don't have another rested character in center stage, you can pay 1 to rest it. Usually I feel like you will have another rested character, but if your opponent wipes your board, you can save it for 1 stock, which is pretty good. Once we hit level 2, it sort of opens up a lot more on what we can summon off of standbys. The main thing here is the main thing you're probably looking to get out first is either the globals. The Arisa and Kasumi are both plus 1500 power. Arisa gives all your music characters power. The Kasumi only gives it to your poppin'party characters. Only card it's really relevant for is the Under the Full Moon Kasumi and Rimi, which is music but is not poppin'party since it's from set 1. And then the Kasumi also heals if you have to play it at level 3, and it can give us a little bit of card advantage. It's basically a Magi. Whenever we play a climax, pay 1, check top 4. We get to add a poppin'party. Not the biggest thing since it's a level 3, so like generally you want this effect earlier in the game. But it is a healer and it's poppin'party trait, so we play it. The Arisa is part of the whole like stock swap Fumio engine to decompress your opponent. On play, you can rest a character, your opponent chooses a climax in your opponent's waiting room, and you shuffle everything else back into their deck. It also has a climax combo we don't play, but we do run these for the decompression aspect. Under the Full Moon Kasumi and Rimi is 11k if all your characters are music, easy condition. On play, discard 1, heal to stock, so it is a 1 stock healer, which is pretty good because our top end does require a little bit of stock. And then at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you can pay 1 to field swap. So if you can bring this out, if you can standby this out at level 2, then you get to field swap around and sort of mess with your opponent, save your level 1 combos maybe, or save this, and just throw cheap characters into whatever your opponent's trying to kill you with. And then at the top end, we're pretty much all in on the Kasumi. We're not really playing much of a sustain game. The Kasumi is 13k during your turn if you have 2 or more other poppin'party. And then on attack, you can pay 1, discard 1, deal 1, which is already pretty cheap for dealing 1 damage. Normally that's going to be pay 2, ditch 1. And then at the beginning of the Encore step, it gains the ability at the beginning of the Encore step. If the climax is in play, you can pay 1, ditch 1 again to deal 3 if there's no character facing it or a reversed character facing it. So we do want to win board, but we're 13k and we're playing 1500 globals that we can just use the standby to bring out. So shouldn't be too hard to win board with this one. So here's the full deck. Some of the other cards I didn't cover. The Hagumi Brainstorm, obviously it's the poppin'party Brainstorm, so we don't really have much of a choice there. Secret Spot Arisa is on play, pay 1, ditch 1, check top 3, add anything. This does let us dig for our events and climaxes. Also gives us a discard out and lets us fill our discard for standby targets. That's going to be pretty much it for the level 0 lineup. There aren't a ton of discard outs in this deck. So if you do want to play drop salvagers or ditch climaxes to salvage, etc., you probably cut the coin flip Kasumi. Since I think the rest of the cards are pretty important to the deck. We played 2 backups at level 1 because ties are 6k. We can win board by pumping them to 8. So counters are pretty good. They also save our 2/2s and whatever level 3s we standby out early. Especially if we like standby out the Kasumi at level 2 to save resources on playing it, since it doesn't have an on-play effect anyway. We played the 1/1 Rimi. Whoop. There we go. We play the 1/1 Rimi that can't be reversed by cost 0s, because Attack on Titan and Fate are pretty relevant decks, in addition to everything else playing, like 1/0 combos. So this just gives us another thing we can standby out that wins board. You can even hard play this. You get value out of it almost all the time. We play Saya Level Assist just to guarantee that we can win board if we have to, by like on offense with our Kasumi finisher. Rimi Anti-Change Bomb also pumps huge power because we're playing 6 events. Anti-Change Counter. and then we've got the stock swap event. So pretty standard lineup on a lot of the stuff here. Stock swap Fumio, the toilets, etc. Pretty sweet deck though. I think this is definitely one of the stronger decks to come out of this set. Second, we have the Rosalia deck. So this is going to be mono blue, obviously. Our level 0 lineup does use a lot of old cards in it. Rosalia didn't get a ton of good new level 1s. However, they did push the 8-gate theme pretty heavily in this set with a lot of cards that reference gate triggers. So we are going to be playing into that. Your early game is going to be the Sio Bomb and the Clean Cut Sio. Just to sort of play aggressively, you want to be fielding a lot of stuff early, attacking in, pulling it to your backstage with Sio so that you generate card advantage off of it. The new level 0 we've added is the Unwavering Music Yukina. On play, you get to look at top, put it on top or bottom. This can help us with brainstorms, it can help us with triggers, etc. When it becomes reversed, look at top 3, or reveal up to 3. If you reveal 1 or more, choose a Rosalia character from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest in waiting room, and then choose a card in your hand and put it in your waiting room. So this is the Rize effect. I can't think of what we've gotten this on. Sistine and Fujimi has it. Obviously, like Armin 1.0 has it on play. Japan's been getting these a lot more often in sets, so I have a feeling we'll be seeing a pretty decent bit of them. This is also pretty good. You can play this alongside the Sio, the Clean Cut, and you can crash the Yukina. Like if the Yukina can't get a kill anywhere, you can crash the Yukina, and then get a reverse with the Sio, so you get to use Yukina's effect, and then rest her anyway and move her to backstage and get free hand filter, and basically plus, because your Yukina didn't die. So that's a pretty good setup. Also, like with the Sio Bomb, you can bomb something, bottom deck it, and then get a kill with the other Sio, rest the bottom deck bomb, and pull it to your backstage again. So you can use this Sio to get a lot of just good value out of a lot of your level 0s. Lets you play really aggressively. At level 1, we're playing the new Sio level 1 combo. It is 5500 combos with a gate. When the climax is placed on your climax area, if this is in center stage and you have another Rosalia character, easy conditions. Choose one of the following abilities, and it gains it until end of turn, or until end of the opponent's next turn. You either gain on attack, put the top card of your deck into your stock, or when this is frontal attacked, you may return this to your hand. Generally, you're going to want to be going with the second option to return to your hand, especially since we're playing 8 gates. It's pretty easy to loop climaxes in this deck. So it gives us card advantage that provides us with guaranteed attackers. It's very similar to how like Aaron functions and Astolfo functions and all that. But if you can't win on offense, then you go with the stock option. Because if Sio dies on offense, then you obviously can't return her to hand anyway, because she'll be dead by the time your opponent's attacking her. But it means that we always get value out of it no matter what our opponent's board state looks like. We either get another attacker or we get stock that we can use on brainstorms and whatnot. This is our sort of supporting gate trigger cast here. The Yukina from the last set doesn't specifically reference gate triggers, but it does have an effect that helps us here. So it has the experience. If the tier's overflowing, Yukina's in your level, it becomes a 6k. But importantly, on attack, if you have 2 or more other Rosalia, look at top 2, choose 1, put it on top, and then put the rest into your waiting room. This does let us dig for gate triggers. So A, if you don't want to trigger them, it lets you sort of guarantee that you have clean triggers, or dig for soul triggers or non-triggers for specific damage numbers, etc. But if you want to, you can also dig for the gate triggers, so that you can trigger 1, add 1 to hand, and then use this Rinko's effect, which is on attack, you can discard a climax with a gate trigger to gain 1500 and on reverse draw a card. So you can use Yukina, put 1 on top, trigger it, add 1 to hand, swing with Rinko, ditch the one that you just added to hand to draw a different card and gain 1500 power. And then Rinko also gains 1500 at experience 2 which if you put the Tears Overflowing Yukina into your level, then you're experience 3, so you will be hitting this condition. And then we have the 2-1 Yukina. This is very similar to the Saya 2-1 assist. Instead of a level assist, it's a 1000 power global, which is also pretty good in this deck because we do have some level 1s that we'll be attacking with pretty often. And then Act, you discard a Gate Trigger Climax. This card does actually have an errata. Well, I don't actually think they've errata this. This needs to be errata to say put 1 Climax with Gate in its trigger icon instead of put 1 card. I don't believe that's been errata yet. And then you rest it. Choose one of your Rosalia characters, and that character gets plus 5500 power and the following ability. During this card's battle, your opponent cannot play event cards from hand. So it's not going to stop backups, but plus 5500 power, most backups aren't going to matter anyway. So you get to stop events like Opposition by the Shield, and stuff like that. Anti-damage, basically. This is sort of an engine that we're looking to get into our level area the entire game. Obviously the Saya, we want to put the Yukina in first, because we do want to play aggressively with the Saya at level 0, and then get a copy of it into our level at level 1. Or like going into level 2. We want the Yukina first, because we do have a level 1 that requires it in level for its effect. But then the Yukina itself, if you have itself just in your level, then it gets -1 level, which is pretty sweet. So you can just early play it for pretty cheap, pretty easy condition. We'll see why we want the Saya a little later, but continuous, if all your characters are Rosalia, this gains 2k, and then on play you heal. So that's pretty generic, right? It's a 10k healer, but it's such an easy condition that we just play 4, because, you know, why not, right? We get to heal, we get to fill our board. If we're playing the Yukina 2-1 global anyway, these become 11ks. So we can play a pretty good sustain game at level 2. We also have some other things to protect our early plays and deal with the opposing early plays. We have a 2500 bottom deck backup. This is going to become more relevant. We're going to start seeing a lot of characters with Encore, a lot of early plays with Encore, especially coming out of Slime and Konosuba, and being able to remove those from the board without giving our opponent a chance to Encore them gets us pretty good value. We have the Yukina 2-1 anti-change backup. Generally, I would say this card is pretty terrible, but since we're playing 8 gates, having a Climax in hand to discard for the effect is not super unlikely, so I do have 1 copy of it in this list. And then we play 1 copy of this Yukina early play. If your waiting room has 2 or less Climax, this card gets -1 level while in your hand. And then on play, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a Rosalia character, which hopefully it is, you can also use the level 0 Yukina to top check and sort of make sure that you're getting there. You can choose a level 3 or lower character in your opponent's center stage and put it at the bottom of his or her deck. So this also deals with big standby targets and early plays, just for free, basically. At level 3, we've got these Lisas. We have a very level 3 lineup, I guess. The first one here is from the last set, so this is where we want the experience. If the Tears Overflowing Yukina and the level 0 Sayo are in your level, she gains 2500 power, becomes a 10-5. It's not the end of the world if you miss the Sayo. The Yukina is the real one that you definitely want in there. Which, thankfully, because we want to play pretty aggressively with the Sayo at level 0, so we might not always be able to hold them in hand to clock. But you have pretty much all game to get it there. On play, you get to look at top 3, add 1 to hand. This helps us dig for our Climax if for some reason we don't have it. And then on attack, pay 1, discard a Rosalia character, deal 1 damage. Pretty cheap burn 1. And then our main finisher is the new Lisa level 3. On play, discard 1, heal to stock. And then Climax combo, on attack, pay 2, discard 1. If you have 4 or more other Rosalia characters, you may pay the cost. Reveal 6 cards from the top of your deck, shuffle your deck, deal X damage to your opponent, and this gains 4000 power. X is the total number of soul trigger icons among the cards revealed by this effect. So notably, this doesn't like put the cards into waiting room like most of these sort of effects did before now. It shuffles whatever you reveal, it shuffles back in, so it doesn't punish you for compressing super hard. Since our climaxes do have soul triggers, we can be on a compressed deck state, reveal climaxes, and keep them in our deck, which is really good. The number of soul triggers we have in this deck means you are typically going to be dealing 2 or 3 damage, I believe slightly favoring 3 off of this. So that's... Alright, this one might be slightly favoring 2. They're very close. But about 60% of the time you're either dealing 2 or 3, and then like 15-ish% of the time you'll either be dealing 1 or 15% of the time. I think a little less than 15% of the time you'll be dealing 4. Maybe it does favor 2. It's like 2, then 3, then 1, then 4. But 2 and 3 are very good numbers of damage to be dealing. It's very unlikely that you're dealing such large instances that your opponent just cancels everything. Because if you don't get the 2 or 3, you probably got 1. Which isn't the greatest. Pay 2, ditch 1, deal 1's not amazing. But that is normal like cost on dealing 1, so you're still not losing a ton of value because you gain the 4K and all. So overall, it's honestly a pretty solid combo, and it does heal to stock. So if you need to just play a resource light sort of end game where you sustain a little bit, we play a ton of healers in this deck. And then you can go for the finish a bit later. Things I did not cover, level 0s, we have the Akko 0/0 up here. This is, I believe, from the last set as well. If you have 2 or more other Rosalia characters, it gains 1,000, and then on play, discard a climax to salvage. We have the... I think the only other one, there's the events. Phone Shy, obviously, has been around since the first Rosalia trial deck. It is an event counter. If you have 1 or less music, you can't play it. If you have a Sayo, Akko, Yukina, Lisa, and Rinko, like one of each character on board, you get to choose, you perform the chosen, you choose one of 3 effects. You perform it twice if you have one of each character. I haven't actually looked at the numbers on that in this deck, but I feel like that's very not gonna happen. It's usually not something I really even like consider trying to pull off anyway, because like level 1 combos and stuff you typically want multiple copies of in play. And yeah, we only play like 3 Akko cards in this whole deck, so good luck with that. But the modes are, you choose an opponent's character, it gets -1 soul, so you can use it for a little bit of sustain. Choose one of your characters in battle and it gains 3,000 power, so you can definitely use that to be protecting your early plays as well. And the last mode is search your deck for a music character. Notably, you do still get a counter step if you return the Sayo level 1 combo to hand, so you can return it to hand and then Phone Shy to search if you want. So that's pretty neat. Overall, I think it's just a really good card. Like, all 3 modes on it are pretty solid, so you're not really losing anything by playing it. Worst case scenario, you just main phase it as a 1/1 search event. And then the 1-of event we're playing is a 2/1. You have to have a Rosalia character to play it. You choose 2 Rosalia characters in your waiting room, return them to hand, and then discard 1, and then send the event to memory. While it's in your memory, at the beginning of your main phase, you may discard a climax to return the event from your memory to your hand. So this gives us another discard out for climaxes if they do start clogging our hand, since we have 8 gates. And then we can immediately turn that discard out into an event that is super like good hand fix selection. So overall, really just like 1 copy of this card does, if we ever draw it, we're pretty much set up for the rest of the game. And we don't need multiple copies of it because it can recur itself forever, basically. And the deck's pretty tight on slots otherwise. Third deck we have here is Hello Happy World, and this is going to be pretty different from most of the Hello Happy World lists you see. Hello Happy World usually focuses on like burst power and the twin drive cards and stuff, or the set 1 Kokoro combo. But it is generally just like you play your dudes, you sort of burst power out, and then they die, and then you play new dudes with sort of like really efficient, just sort of cycling through cards. I'm playing, or I have a little bit of a different build here. to show off some of the cool engines that Hello Happy World has. At level 0, we don't really have plussing zeros on the level of poppin'party and Rosalia. It's more utility. We have the Kaoru on play ditch 1, check top 4 for a yellow character. We have the Hagumi that can search climaxes. We have the Kokoro drop search that has been featured in like every generic build of BanG Dreams since it came out. And the new card that we have is the Hagumi Brainstorm. When your character's trigger check reveals a level 2 or higher card, you give a character 1000 power. And then pay 1, rest itself, Brainstorm. For each climax, you search your deck for a Hello Happy World character. So pretty much every band that outside of poppin'party and Rosalia, since they already had rest self Brainstorms, got a rest self plussing Brainstorm specific to its band. So this is the Hello Happy World one. We are playing this instead of the old Kanon Amagi, since we're not playing like stock soul or anything in this build. At level 1, our goal is going to be the, with everyone's help, Kanon level 1 combo. This is the Fever combo from the last set. It's 5500 pretty much always, and at the beginning of the Encore step, if the Climax is in play, and this is on your center stage, and your opponent does not have any center stage characters, or they're all reversed, you can pay 1 to salvage 2 and gain 1000 power. So this is one of those combos that you pretty much only have to resolve once to plus so many times that you're good on it. You don't need to multi-field this card. In this deck, I think we actually are going to try to get like 2 of them on board, because the 1k power puts it up to 65, which is a pretty good number to be defending. And it's on Shot Trigger, which has a lot of synergy with our level 3 combo, so that's a lot of the reason that we're playing this. Our other level 1 package here is the level 0 Kanon. On play, you can reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a music character, you can pay 1 to search your deck for the 117k Hagumi and put it into your hand. So that is a pay 1 plus 1, which is pretty good on its own. But it's also top deck information. You don't have to pay the stock, but now you know what the top card of your deck is. So it can sort of help you with brainstorms and stuff like that a little bit. The other effect, though, is if you're level 1 or higher, you can send the Kanon to your stock to play the Hagumi for free from your hand. Which means that instead of a pay 1 plus 1, you can turn this into play the Kanon, and then get Hagumi into play from your deck for free, basically. You lose the plus 1, but you don't lose any stock, so you get a 107k that thins your deck by 1 card. Which, last I checked, that's pretty good. Last I checked, that's pretty good. You can also, like, it's cool because you get to look at the top, or reveal the top card of your deck, and then you can do other stuff with that information before you send the Kanon to stock, or whatever. You don't have to do it immediately. You also don't have to search in order to summon the Hagumi if you already have the Hagumis in hand or whatever. But generally, you'll take the search if you hit it, because it's free. But, like, you can use this Kanon just to get free stock later, right? So let's say you just, oh, I'm 1 stock short of my finisher combo. Let me play this Kanon and just send it to stock and do nothing, right? Because you don't have to play the Hagumi. Your opponent can't confirm that it's in your hand. So really cool package. Gets us 7Ks into play for pretty easy. Obviously 7Ks aren't the 7500s that standby decks play, but still pretty big, still fits in with the deck pretty well. Next we have the Kanon Level Assist, moving into level 2. So this isn't going to do a ton for our level 1 characters, but it is going to support our level 3s really well. And then when we play a Climax, we give a character 1000, and we can rest it to look at the top card of our deck and put it on the top or bottom. That's not super relevant. This is mainly here because it's a level assist and it can give us some power. We only play 1 copy of it. We just want our early plays to be bigger than they are. And then at level 2, we're going to try to be playing the Music of Smiles Kaoru. 2 or fewer Climax, -1 level. On play, it heals, and if all of your characters are Hello Happy World, it gains 1500, and when it becomes reversed, you can discard 1 to return this card to your hand. This is pretty solid. It's not quite Encore, but it's in a way where you get to play it from hand and get the heal again, which I think is also valuable enough. And it's 10-5 in this deck always, so it's going to be 12 if we have a level assist out, which is reasonably big on its own. It fits in with the theme of we want to resolve our Fever combo, win board, and then use Hagumi to search the climax again to Fever again, for pretty much free, since we already won board on defense. We don't really have to do a whole lot to trigger the Fever condition again. And we can do that to like loop counters and stuff. So speaking of counters, we play 3 different backups in this deck. The first one is the on-stage Misaki. This is mainly here, again, because we're going to be moving into formats with a lot of sort of encore early plays and big encore characters, and things that really want to be staying on board. So having the option to memory kick on a 2k backup, we can protect our early play from things like Yo, that really wants to stay on board, send its memory so our opponent can't just summon it out again. And we can deal with all those like encore early plays and stuff. As long as we don't need to be removing those things, we have the Kaoru 2k backup. This one is if all your characters are yellow, you can put the top card of your deck into your stock. So it's basically a 1-0 2k backup that has a soul trigger, which is relevant for our choice triggers in this deck, because it does mean that we can add this to our hand off of a choice trigger. And we play 1 anti-change backup. It's just 2-1-25, discard 2 anti-change. Hopefully we have the hand for this. We should. Kanon combo refills our hand pretty easily. So if we like counter and win a lane and also anti-change a lane, we basically get Kanon combo for free the next turn, because that's like 2 lanes that we killed. And that can refill our hand pretty easily. Our level 3 game, we have the Musashi from Girls Band Party 1, just because it's an off-climax finisher that has Kokoro in its name, and doesn't cost any resources. We don't play the climax for its climax combo. The other Kokoro here, the new one, we do play the climax for. So on attack, you can choose a yellow card in your waiting room, put it on top of your deck, and then at the end of the attack, you can discard 2 and put this in waiting room, search your stock for a Hello Happy World character that is not itself, put it on the stage, put it on the stage position it was on, and shuffle your stock. It's meant to combo with the Misaki here, which is on play from hand or by the auto effect. You heal, and then you put a Kokoro from your waiting room underneath it as a marker. So our options here are the either level 3. It's pretty easy if you summon it off combo, because you just summon the level 3 that you sacked for combo, or you put that under it as a marker. If you're hard playing it from hand, you have either level 3 or the Drop Searcher as your options. Drop Searcher generally probably being the best one. If it has a marker, it becomes 11-5 and is a field swap. If we have the level assist, that's a 13k, so pretty solid, and we can field swap this around to win board. Choice trigger is nice in this deck. We do have a lot of counters with soul triggers that we can keep adding back. We can use it to add our early plays, and worst case scenario, we can just use it to get some stock early, which lets us brainstorm and resolve like Fever combo and stuff without really worrying about a resource crunch as much. The other thing about the Kokoro level 3 here is that the put a yellow card on top of your deck is super versatile. If you need a soul trigger, you can put a soul trigger on top. If you need a good target to summon off of the climax combo, you can put that on top, and then obviously immediately search your stock for it. If you need extra cards in hand to discard, you can put a choice trigger on top, right? If you are really trying to push for game, whether you're doing the climax combo or not, you can use it to stack the shot triggers from your level 1 combo on the top, and basically give your Kokoro free cancel burn. So that, in conjunction with the Musashi from Gerba 1, means that you have a lot of cancel burn effects. And if you're doing like cancel burn Kokoro, both of those like pseudo restand into healers, and you have a Musashi on board, that's pretty solid. That is some good stuff. So here's the whole deck. I think I actually covered every card in this one on the slides, so nothing new there. We're just trying to win board. It's a defensive Hello Happy World build that goes into a somewhat explosive finisher. Oh, we are playing the stock bombs, the 2 stock bombs. These don't have to be the stock bomb. There's a number of things these can be. I can't think. There was one thing that I was like, the biggest thing you could change it out for, but I completely forgot what that is. I think it's fine as stock bomb, honestly. Stock bomb gives you stock. You can use it as an early play, like early level 0 gameplay. Words are hard. And then if your opponent plays a climax, you know, it dodges reverse as it goes to stock, so it gives us even more resources to work with for the con on level 0. Next we have Afterglow, and I'm going to preface this by saying that this deck's a disaster. Afterglow still can't make up its mind as to whether it wants to be like an all-in, play as many alarms as you can deck, or 8 treasure good stuffs, or what. Like, every set keeps seeming to like flip-flop the idea back around, and like in this set we got support that wants you to be playing all alarms, and the run Brainstorm wants you to have 8 treasures. So, question mark. I decided to just sort of take this deck, or this set's 8 treasure thing, or not 8 treasure, alarm thing, and run with that. So, I don't know how good this deck actually is in practice, and you should probably be playing other Afterglow builds. But this seemed cool, and shows off some of the new cards, so yeah. It's at least not strictly outclassed by other things. It is probably the better way to play the heavy alarms, unless you play like Sugumi combo from Girls Band Party 1. Level 0, we have the Himari Runner from Multi-Live. Free Runner also has an alarm effect. This alarm is pretty good because it lets you remove things with Encore, or like coin flips and stuff. Run Brainstorm is new. Whenever your character's trigger check reveals a climax, if it is a treasure, you may draw one. If you do, discard one. This is just Sakura Brainstorm, but worse, because we can't have nice things in Afterglow. Only Heaven's Feel gets those. It's also a Brainstorm, obviously. For each climax, you search an Afterglow character. Then we have this level 0 Mocha. Spoiler alert, it has an alarm effect. This one's not amazing. Its main phase, discard a climax, salvage. It's kind of unfortunate if you have to like clock this in order to get your hand filter, since normally the time that you need like a discard climax salvage is when you clock and draw too many climaxes. But you have to clock this sort of preemptively before you know that. But it's pretty good even apart from the alarm. If you have 5 or more cards in hand, it becomes a 3500, so it's another just decent like turn 1 play, turn 2 play. Our level 1 combo is the new Mocha Uncommon. This is pretty cool. It's modal like the Sayo for Rosalia. When the climax is placed, same condition, if it's in center stage and you have another Afterglow. You choose one of the abilities, and it gains it until end of turn. On attack, you may put the top card of your deck into your stock, same as the Sayo. The other mode is on reverse, salvage one. So again, this is just sort of a spot where if we can win board, we take the salvage, usually. If we're having to crash it, we take the on attack stock. So that we're pretty much just always getting value out of it. Unfortunately, we can't loop this like we can loop the Sayo, not as easily at least. So generally you go for the on reverse salvage just for the selective card advantage. But it's on a treasure, so it helps our Brainstorm. And it's a plussing like climax trigger. The other option you have here is the Girls Band Party 1 Sugumi that just gets a billion power and is on reverse, check top 4, add 1 to hand. On a like split 2k1, I want to say. With a 2 soul trigger. So you lose out on a little bit of Brainstorm value if you play that one, but it is probably a better combo overall just because it gets huge on offense. You can obviously also play the ones that are like on attack, stock, and alarm or whatever, but those are not amazing, I don't think. Level 2, our game plan is to be early playing the Ren from the last set with the 1-0 Tomoe. I've been pretty high on this card since it came out, and that definitely hasn't changed. It has an alarm effect, draw 2, discard 2. pretty good. Helps us dig for climaxes at level 1, stuff like that. Just hand fix in general. It bonds our early play, which is okay hand. Means that we always have our early play pretty much. And when you play the early play, if the Tomoe is on your stage, you put it into stock, and the Ran gets 1500 power. So, pretty solid. Turns your early play into like a 1 stock, 1 hand early play instead of a 2 stock early play. The Ran heals to memory, and is 2 or fewer climax condition. It also has Encore, put 1 Afterglow character from your hand into your waiting room. In the generic decks, this is usually not great, because you don't play a ton of Afterglow, but in this deck, spoiler alert, the whole deck's Afterglow. So Ran's Encore is actually amazing in this deck. Again, this is just one of the, this is why we play things like the bottom deck counter in Rosalia and the memory kit counter in Hello Happy World, right? This has Encore, we want to be able to remove this without our opponent being able to save it for pretty cheap. Other things we have, counters. These help us keep our early play alive and help us keep our level 1 combo alive. Since it doesn't bounce back to hand, any little bit of power that can save it is going to be pretty nice. Unfortunately, 2 of these counters are level 2, but oh well. The Himari is just a 1500, but it has a really nice alarm effect. At the beginning of your main phase, if it's the top card, you can swap it with a character in your waiting room. This basically lets you control what alarm effect you get at your climax phase, which is pretty relevant every now and then. The Tomoe 2-1 is alarm. You give a character 2k and a soul, which is a pretty just solid pump. It's also a 3k backup. And then the Ran is a 3k backup with a really strong alarm effect. Beginning of climax phase, if you have 4 or more Afterglow characters, pay 1 to return a character in your opponent's center stage to their hand. So this lets you deal with things like Rider or Futaba from Bunny Girl Senpai. It lets you just bounce them off the board, not have to worry about them. And it's a card that you don't feel bad about holding in your hand, because you can hold it as a counter, or you can just save it, clock it at level 3, get the bounce effect, and it's solid utility. It's one of Bang Dream's few ways to bounce at this point. I think one of their 3 ways. And obviously the only one for Afterglow, so it gives us something to do there. Other things we play to deal with early plays, since Afterglow does not have an anti-change counter. Powerful Eyes Run is a 1-0. When it attacks, if the top card of your clock has Alarm, and this card's battle opponent is higher than your opponent's level, it gains 6k, so it becomes a 10-5. That's not huge on its own, but it starts getting there, right? And since it doesn't specify level 3, you can use this to kill like 2/2s that your opponent standbys out at level 1. It also has an alarm effect that gives a character 2000 power, just in case it ends up on top of your clock. We do have some other power pumps to sort of help this Ran out, and obviously playing a climax gets it to like 11-5 already. Other thing we have is the Himari Anti-Change Bomb. This card sees play everywhere, right? Alarm, it gives you a stock, and then it's an Anti-Change Clock Bomb. So we play a lot of these just because we want to see their alarm a couple times a game at least. Our top end, we do play a couple copies of the Sugumi, the early play condition for the multi-live level 3. We don't play the multi-live level 3, but this card has a pretty solid alarm, so I play 2 copies of it just because we do want a billion alarms in this deck. It's all your Afterglow characters get on attack, pay 1, look at the top card of your opponent's deck, put it on top or bottom. It's pretty good for confirming damage. Obviously it's a pretty heavy resource sink, but our level 3 game's not super resource intensive to begin with. So it can just help us get pretty decent damage confirmation, and stack climaxes on bottom of deck. So the other effect on it is on play, pay 1, ditch 1, clock swap, which is fine hand fix, especially with 8 treasures in the deck. Like every now and then you're gonna want the discard out, if you didn't get it off of like Run Brainstorm or whatever. And then our actual finisher lineup, we have the Proof I'm Here Ran. This card's pretty great. Even aside from the finisher effect, it has, if it's top card of your clock at the beginning of main phase, you pay 1, clock 1, search your deck for an Afterglow character. So it's kind of Ricky, but it's not like a level 0 on play. It's alarm effect. But it is plussing, and we can do it at level 0. And then it has a finisher effect. On attack, pay 1, mill 3. Deal X to your opponent. X is the number of cards with alarm. So this is typically going to be burning like 1 or 2 or whatever, which is pretty fine for just paying 1 on attack. Like, that's really cheap to be dealing this damage. We have so many alarms that we're usually not just going to miss on that. And then our other finisher is the new Himari level 3 from this set. We only play 2 because it is generally worse than the level 3 Ran. And the Ran has the alarm effect that we want throughout the game. But it's on play, draw 2, ditch 1, and then on attack, gains 1,000, and you mill 2. For each card with alarm, or event card, you deal 1 damage. So if you hit 2 alarms, you deal 1, whereas Ran hitting 2 would deal 2. So pretty solid card overall, and it is on a treasure. So we only play 2 just because our level 3 lineup's kind of full otherwise, because we do play 4 of the early play. Only other card I didn't cover is the Tomoe level 0 up here, which is it has an alarm effect that is look at top 2, put them back in any order at climax phase. So it's kind of slightly better Goblin Slayer alarm. But then act, you can arrest it to choose one of your Afterglow characters, and it gains 1500 power. If that character has alarm, it gains 2500 instead. Excuse me. So we can use this to pump the 1-0 Ran from 10-5 up to 13, which is a little better at killing things. Can also use it to pump like the level 3 Ran to kill something or anything like that. We do also play 2 copies of the 1-0 Tomoe. It's a cost 0 clock bomb, so it can deal with some things, similar to like Fate, but we don't have Encore on it, obviously. But speaking of Encore, it has an alarm. If it's the top card of your clock at the beginning of the climax phase, either player's turn, you choose one of your characters and it gains character Encore. So we can use this if we like win on offense with our level 1 combo, and have Tomoe on top of our clock. We can give the Mocha character Encore for our opponent's turn, so that if it dies, we can bring it back and try to combo again the next turn. Last deck we've got here, real quick, Reza Suilin. This is the new band for this set, so they got the trial deck and cards in this set. They don't have a huge card pool, obviously, since this is their first set, but they do have some pretty sweet cards. So we've got the Supreme Music Layer. This is one of the big hype cards from the set. On play, mill 2, gains 1,000 times the number of music characters you reveal. And on play, pay 1, clock 1, salvage a level 1 or lower. Typical Krista effect, very good, just generic plussing level 0. The other sort of plussing, quote-unquote, 0 we have, not really plussing, but like good turn 2 play, turn 1 going second, really. On play, if your opponent has 1 or fewer center stage, you choose a cost 0 or lower in their center stage and put it at the bottom of his or her deck. So this deals with, like, if your opponent goes turn 1 runner, you play this, kill their runner. Pretty good against the Goblin Slayer Chaser. The other effect is on attack, you give a character 500 times the number of other music characters you have, so Shimakaze Kai. Just a decent power pump. We do have a reverse combo at level 1, so relevant for that. Other level 0s, again, we don't really have plussing 0s, but we do have a huge suite of hand fixing and selection. So the first one is the Lock 00. On play, pay 1, ditch 1, search. Typical drop search, but it's 3k power, meaning we can field this as a plussing 0 if we need to. Downside is that it goes to bottom of deck when it becomes reversed. Can't really do anything about that, unfortunately. The Hagumi Brainstorm, when you accelerate, which this is an accelerate focused deck, choose one of your characters, give it 1,000 for turn, and then Brainstorm, pay 1, rest it. For each climax, you search your deck for a Reza Suilin character. Pretty typical of all the Brainstorms in this set. We have Raise Your Hands Choo-Choo. This is, you do the sort of like the Rico level assist effect. On play, you can discard 1. If you do, reveal the top card of your deck, choose a level X or lower in waiting room, return it to hand. X is the level of the card you reveal. This is basically just a discard out for us that gives us hand fix. We have enough utility zeros that we can play this, and no matter what we reveal, we can grab like a drop search or another copy of itself or whatever. Or the pay one, clock one salvage, anything like that. And our last zero is the Pario. This is Accelerate. At the beginning of your climax phase, you can put the top card of your deck into your clock. If you do, this gains on attack, search 1, discard 1. So we are clocking ourselves for a break even, but it gives us good hand fixing early on that lets us set up our level 1 game. Our level 1 game consists of these two cards. The main focus is going to be the Choo Choo level 1 combo. On attack, you give a character 1,000, and on attack, you give a character on reverse search. So as opposed to the normal like characters that are just on reverse search, this one gives it to one of your characters. It can give it to itself if you want, but the strong thing you can do here is stack like 3 copies of this all onto one. So when that one gets its reverse, you get to search 3 times. Which is nice if your opponent like doesn't have an entire board you can reverse. If they only have like 1 left over level 0, it still lets you get a lot of value out of reversing that one character. And then the Masking 1-0 is all your opponent's characters get Encore 2, and at the beginning of either player's climax phase, put a music character from your waiting room at the bottom of your clock. This gains 3,500 until end of turn. So it goes up to 95. You can do this offensively or defensively. Generally, you won't need it offensively, since even if you're using the masking to stack your level 1 combo on, you can, you have the on attack pump 1,000 and the climax, so you're still going to be like 8k or 9k on offense, and then you can accelerate up to 9,500 defense. So this card's honestly just huge power, and we do have the Brainstorm, right, that pumps 1k when we accelerate. This activates on defense too. So if we accelerate with the masking, we get to pump another 1k into any of our characters. Alright, then we have our level 2 game here. We're mainly playing this Lock 3-2. It's -1 level if you have 4 or more Raise a Suilan characters, which is an amazing condition for early play. It gains 1,000 power if you have 2 or more other, which if you have 4 or more other, I hope you also have 2 or more other. And then it has an Accelerate effect, only during the turn that it's placed from hand. At the beginning of climax phase, you put a music character from waiting room to bottom of clock. If you do, this gains 1,500 power, and the following ability. On attack, search your deck for up to 2 Raise a Suilan, or Yes, You Guys Are the Best, which is the event we've got here. Reveal them, put them in hand, and shuffle. So not only does this replace itself, it also goes +1. So we have a 10k early play, attacks for 11.5, and goes +1, just for the cost of clocking ourselves, which later in the game, clocking is not the main thing you want to be doing to yourself. But in this case, we have things that make it work fairly well. Things you can search off this, we do have 2 counters here. The Lock 1-0 backup is an anti-change. You pay 2 to anti-change one of your opponent's characters, and they replace it with a level 0 or lower. It is a sort of a drawback for the anti-change counter being as cheap as it is. But it's still anti-change. You'd rather your opponent have a level 0 on board than whatever big early play they put down. We also have a 3k counter. This is the only other Raise a Suilan backup, so we do just have to deal with a vanilla 3k backup. We also have a counter, the Yes, You Guys Are the Best, the event that it searches. Is if all of your characters are Raise a Suilan, choose one of your opponent's characters in battle, it gets -2 soul, and you get to draw 1, discard 1. So this, apart from being like kind of anti-damage sometimes, it does let you make up for the accelerate effects, where like you clock yourself once to get this card, but you get this card and another card, and you get to mitigate 2 soul of damage, which means you basically heal 1 versus if you didn't accelerate to begin with. So pretty good card. Like, it's a good way to make up for all the damage you're punching yourself with. And it's a little bit of hand filter. And it just can save you at level 3 from dying, right? Like, it's always good. Ways to deal with the opponent's early plays that we have. We have the Pario 1-1. It's an anti-change bottom deck bomb. and at the beginning of your climax phase, you can accelerate, put a music from waiting room to bottom of deck or bottom of clock. If you do, look at the top card of your deck, put it on top or into waiting room, and then you get to stock a Reza Suilan from your waiting room. So if you accelerate, this is a 1-0 anti-change bomb, which is really efficient. We have the lock. This card is super good. On attack, if the character facing it is level 3 or higher, it gains 4,000 and a soul. So it's an 11k 2-soul beater. And when it reverses battle opponent, you can send it to memory and then bring it back at your next draw phase. So not only does it become a 1-cost 2-soul attacker, it can go +1 if it kills an early play. Or if it kills anything, but you're mainly going to be using this as a 2-soul beater against early plays. And the last thing we have that gets huge and can deal with both early plays and like standby targets and stuff is this on-stage layer from the trial deck. On attack, it gains 1,000 times the number of other music characters you have, which puts it at 11. And then accelerate at the beginning of climax phase, clock yourself. It gains 1,000 and the following ability. When this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, put up to 2 cards from the top of your deck into your stock. So it can attack for 12 and then stock 2 on reverse, which since it's only a 1-cost character, you get to go +1 stock off of that, which is really good for being able to pay for like the 2/2 counters and your early plays and stuff like that. As far as back row things, apart from our Brainstorm, we have Blunt Kindness Masking. When you accelerate, if your clock has 4 or more cards, you can pay 1 to heal. So this, if you have the stock, you can sort of mitigate the clocking yourself off of accelerate effects. And then act, rest this card, choose one of your Reza Suilan characters, and it gains 3,000 power. 3,000 is huge, and it means that our 2/1 lock and 2/1 layer will basically delete whatever's in their path, which is real good. We also have the Perio 2/1. It is a 2k to level 3 or higher characters, so this does make our early play 12, and it makes our finishers quite large. And then when you accelerate, you can pay 1 and rest this card to choose one of your music characters, and it gains 3,500 cross turn. So this again, it's a way we can make the 2/1 layer really big, and we can make the lock early play really big. You also don't have to pump the character that accelerated, so we could like accelerate with the masking 1-0 and pump the choo-choo 1-0 combo or whatever to try to win 2 lanes off of that. So that's pretty solid as well. Or we can like accelerate with lock early play to thin our deck on attack and use the power pump to pump our clock kick or our restander. So moving into level 3, this is our top end. We have the overwhelming vocal ability layer. It gains 500 for each of your other Reza Suilan characters. It's on reverse clock kick, and at the beginning of the encore step, you can heal during the turn that it's played. So 11k healing clock kick, very generic, but solid card all around. And it is on a treasure, so it's a plus in climax trigger. So this card is just like, this is just solid. There's nothing bad about this card. Like, it's just an all around. It's an 11k healer, which is already something that a lot of decks want to have. But it also just gives you a little bit of finishing power, even if it's only on reverse clock kick, which isn't amazing. It's finishing power. And then we also have the trial deck layer. During your turn, it gains 2k if you have 2 or more other music characters, and once per turn during the turn that it's placed, on reverse, pay 3, ditch 1, stand. Pretty standard effect that we see every now and then. It just gives us like an off climax way to have a finisher. Since most of these, or since all of these are new, I talked about most of them. The only other one is the 3/2 Perio. This is from the trial deck. It's just the healer. And on play, you give a character 500 times the number of music characters you have. So we can use this on play to pump our clock kicker, pump our restander. It's mostly just here as another healer, since these are the only 2 healers Reza Suilan has. So it gives us a 5th healer to make up for all the clocking we're doing. Overall, I think this, like, Reza Suilan was off to a pretty solid start. Accelerate's a hard mechanic to get right. Obviously, we had Excel World in the past do it. And that deck was quite good around the time that it came out. Accelerate's just hard to do because dealing damage to yourself does help your opponent a lot. But I think this is a pretty solid deck all around. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Sorry for those of you that were hoping for a Pastel Palettes deck, but hopefully everyone got something out of the rest of these. Check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Discord. All these places are great. You should check them out. My store on TCG Player that I work for, Card Addicts. We do still have a lot of BanG Vol.2 up, so if you're looking to build any of these decks or test out some of the cards that I showed, check us out. We got pretty good prices on everything. I don't know how many foils we have left, but we, last I checked, had plenty of non-foils of everything. So, yeah, check us out. And I will see you guys when Slime comes out.